guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do a let's chat, and I wanted to do a let's chat over rating systems, and I wanted to talk about mine specifically. And I wanted to talk about my rating system just so that I can give a little bit more context over how I rate books that I talk about here on my channel. And I wanted to talk about this just because since I watch a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of booktube videos in general, I am interested specifically on how people rate their books, because I just find it really funny sometimes when I will watch a person's video and they will be like, I really enjoyed this book. I thought this book was fantastic. It was amazing. It gave me everything that I wanted. 2 stars. And I'm just like, excuse me? How did that get 2 stars and you liked everything about it? And that's not an exaggeration, because I have seen somebody do that before and I was dying laughing because I thought that was so funny. Some people are so harsh on their ratings, and I just want to know why are they so harsh? And I just need more context. So I just thought I would provide more context on my ratings. And I don't think that I'm that harsh when it comes to my ratings. I'm very simple. The first thing is that I will have to say is I don't do like half stars or like the 0.25s or 0.75s. I don't do that. I just do whole stars. Now, when I first started rating books, so a couple of years ago when I first got on Goodreads, and I'm pretty sure that I mentioned this a couple of times on my channel, I used to be really lenient on my ratings. Even when I first started this channel, I was kind of lenient. If I just liked a book, if it put a smile on my face, I was like, oh, I love that, 5 stars. Ooh, this made me laugh, 5 stars. Like, I was giving out 5 stars left and right. I don't do that anymore. And then I found myself, I was being like super harsh on books for no reason. And I was like, I don't understand why I rated this so low. And I found that out. A good example of this is I was doing a review over like one of my Stephen King books, and I went back to look at a review for a previous book. I think I was looking at the review for like The Long Walk by the Stephen King. And I remember saying that I really liked that book. Like, I really enjoyed it. Like, still now, I really enjoyed that book. In my mind, I rated that book almost a 5 stars. On Goodreads, it says I rated that book a 3 stars. And I'm just like, oh, why did I do that? So because of that, because I don't remember why I rate stuff so low, now I keep a reading journal. So now I take notes on books, and I have like a little section for likes and dislikes, so that when I don't remember, I can go back and be like, oh, that's why. It's because I didn't like this, or I like that. So now I can remember, especially now that I'm reading so much more, I can go back and be like, okay, I remember why. It makes sense now. So I do that. Also, I will say that I do have trouble kind of rating nonfiction books. Those are the only books that I have trouble rating. And I still say that now. I just posted another video where I was like, it was a nonfiction, and I was like, I still am kind of like struggling with how to rate these, because when it comes to someone like writing a memoir or something like that, it's like, how do I rate something when someone is like writing something so personal? And it's like, yeah, I could just leave it unrated, but I kind of want to rate it because I feel like I should. So it's like, I don't know. So I haven't really came up with like a system for that. So that one's still a little fuzzy. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do for that. The other thing that I wanted to mention before I start like breaking down the different stars was when it comes to like young adult and middle grade. So when I read those, I kind of take the age out of it. I used to not. I used to, a couple of times I have been like, oh, well, I'm going to knock a star out of this because it just felt young. And I didn't really like that. Well, that's not fair because obviously it's going to feel young. I'm an adult. So if I'm reading a middle grade book, it's supposed to feel young because it's written for a child. So I don't feel it's right for me to try and rate something and like knock a star off because I feel like, oh, well, this sounded like, it just felt like it was, it just felt like it was written for a child. Well, duh, it is. It is written for a child. It should be. So I just kind of take into account when it comes to like middle grade and young adult, if it feels young, it should feel young for who it's written for. Now, I know for like young adult, that one can get a little tricky because there's like the higher young adult and then there's like younger young adult. So that one's a little tricky, but still it's young adult. So I just kind of like take the age out of it as best I can. But definitely for like middle grade, if it sounds young, it's supposed to. That's not what I'm reading it for. I'm reading it for the story. Was the story good? Did that do something for me? So that, as far as that goes, that's what I'm rating that for. So now I'm going to specifically talk about my star ratings and how each book is going to get that particular star rating. And then I kind of took a book and I'm going to give you guys an example of a book that I gave that particular star rating and why I gave it that particular star rating. Okay, so we're going to start with a 1 star. I've said this before in a recent video. I will hardly rate anything a 1 star. If I feel like something's going to get a 1 star, I have probably DNF'd it because I have no problems DNFing books. I will put something down if it is not sitting well in my spirit because I don't want anything bringing my mood down. I don't want anything that's about to put me in a reading slump or a funk in general. So if it is not vibing with me, if I am not gelling with it, if it is just not doing something for me, I will not continue it and I will put it down. Now, with that being said, if I am continuing on with a book that is getting a 1 star, it is probably for a reason. And I have continued on with books for a reason. And that might be either for a video or it just might be so bad that I just have to see how it's going to end. And I mean, it has to be, because I can just Google something and see how it's going to end. But it just has to be a really good reason on why I am sitting through something I am about to give a 1 star. But I have an example. And the reason why I sat through this book is because of a video. Now, also with the 1 star, before I talk about this book, and if you watch my videos, you already know what book I'm going to talk about. But when it comes to 1 stars, I will only recommend a 1 star if it is a very specific recommendation. Like I know you or you have specifically asked for something. And I'm like, I know for sure, even though I did not like this, even though I hated this, even though I no longer want this book in my house, I know you would like this. That is the only time that I would probably recommend something. It is a absolutely specific recommendation. And so the example that I have is The Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. There is absolutely nothing that I liked about this. This was boring. This put me to sleep. It bored me to tears. This was something that I actually listened on audiobook. This should have been something that I enjoyed, but there was just like no redeeming qualities for this. There was like no characters that I liked about this. The plot did nothing for me. There was just nothing about this that I liked. Again, the only reason why I finished this was for a video. That was it. So the next one that we're going to talk about is a 2-star. Now, the 2 stars, the only difference between a 1-star and a 2-star is that there was probably a couple of things that I liked about the book. And I have pushed through a couple of 2 stars. There might be something in it that's like, oh, okay, I can push through something. Like right now, I am reading something that's it's a 2-star. I'm just like, God, it's like putting me to sleep. But I'm almost done with it, and I just kind of want to see how it's going to end, and I can push through it. But it's looking like a 2-star. There's like a couple of things in it that I enjoy, but other than that, everything else, nope, don't like it. So the difference between a 1-star and a 2-star, 1-star, nothing in it that I liked. 2-star, it's a couple of things that I liked. Also with the 2 stars, they will get a specific recommendation if you ask for it. Or if it's something that I think you would like, I would do a specific recommendation. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't recommend 2-star books. And the example that I have for this one is The Turn of a Key by Ruth Ware. I was really disappointed by this one because I really was thinking I was gonna like this one. And it's supposed to be like a mystery thriller, like horror, and there was like a couple of like elements that I liked, because this one is supposed to be like about this girl, this nanny that like lives in like a smart house, and like I liked the creepy elements in this and like the smart house vibe that it gave, but everything else about it, nope, didn't care for it. The big reveal at the end of it, nope, wasn't vibing with it. Nope, didn't like it. So this one ended up getting a 2 stars for me. So 3-star books for me tend to be, for the most part, like middle of the road books for me. So they're genuinely fine. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them while I was reading them. They are probably not books that I'm like singing their praises about. I might speak somewhat highly of a 3-star book here or there, depending on what that book might have been about. But I'm not out here like screaming on the rooftops like, oh my gosh, that was the best thing that I've ever read. There's probably some things that I liked about it and some things that I didn't like about it. They're pretty much, like I said, they're fine. They're middle of the road. I would still probably highly recommend 3-star books to about anybody. They don't have to be like specific recommendations. If I like 3-star books, they will most likely get recommended. The example that I have for a 3-star book is actually Every Heart a Doorway by Shawnee McGuire. And the reason why I have this one is because I thought this was fine. I actually don't have anything that I necessarily too much hate about it, or anything that I just can point out that I just really did not dislike. I literally thought this was fine. It was good enough for me to pick up the next books in the series. I'm intrigued enough to go on, but it's not one of those books where I'm just like, oh my God, I am so excited to go on. I enjoyed it while I was reading it. I had a smile on my face while I was reading it. Will I recommend this to other people? Of course. Is it one of those books that I remember that I read? Of course. I liked it. It was a 3 stars. It was fine. Now, 4-star books for me are books that I really enjoyed. Like, really enjoyed. I am looking forward to reading it. These are books that I had, if I had any issues with them, they're like minor issues. These are books that I would highly recommend to somebody. Again, they don't have to be necessarily specific recommendations. I would recommend this to anybody. These are books that I am highly enjoying while I am reading them. These are books that you would probably find me like smiling while I am reading this. And the example that I have for this one is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I really enjoyed this one. The only problem that I had with this, and the only thing that kept this from getting to 5 stars, was like the last 50 pages of this really dragged for me, which brought it down. That's typical with his books, but had it not been dragging, this would have been a 5-star read for me. But I really enjoyed this. I would recommend this to anybody. If you are a Stephen King fan, I would definitely recommend this book. I would definitely start with this book. This was great. See how I sang this praises? This was great. I love this book. Loved it. Now with a 5-star book, it's technically almost the same as a 4-star book, but it's one thing that's different. So with 5 stars, I absolutely freaking love them. Everything about the book I loved. If there were some issues with the book, I don't care. I loved everything else about it. I probably would want to pick this book up and this book only. Forget about anything else I've already started. I just want to focus on this book. A 5-star book for me is something that I can't stop thinking about. Even after I've read it, I'm still thinking about it. I am out here singing its praises. I'm recommending it to any and everybody. It is something that I am talking about days, weeks, months after I have read it, and it is actually something that I will reread. And the book that I am talking about is, or I should say the book that I'm going to mention, is book 2 in the Mistborn series, and that is The Well of Ascension. I loved everything about this. This was the only book in that series that I really liked. To be honest, the only book that I really thought about. I loved every single moment. I loved every single twist and turn. I feel like if I reread this book right now, I would have the exact same emotions that I did the first time I read this one. I freaking loved this book. I loved the character development in this. I loved everything about this one. This deserved 5 stars. The thing that's different between a 4 and a 5-star for me, and how I know something is going to get a 5-star from me, is if as soon as I'm done with a 5-star book, it is whether or not I know that I would want to reread it. If after I get done with the book and it is not something that I know that I could reread, it's not a 5-star for me. I have finally figured that out. I am not a big rereader, but I do know if it is something that I know that I would never want to reread, I would never want to pick up, I would not even want to skim to a part to just reread that one part, it's not a 5 stars. 5 stars to me means that I want to relive moments in that book. It means that I want to be with those characters again. Like I said, I used to give out 5 stars to a lot of things just because, oh, it just made me feel happy, so 5 stars. No, not anymore. 5 stars for me means, do I want to see these characters again? Do I want to be in this plot again? Do I want to be in this world again? That is a 5-star book for me. Do I want to relive this whole situation a second time? If that is a yes for me, that is a 5-star read. If that is a no, if I just enjoyed it the first time I read it, if I enjoyed the characters, I loved the characters the first time, there was a one and done, it's a 4 stars. And that's fine. But if I want to relive that joy again, that is a 5-star read for me. Well, that was short and sweet. That is actually all that I have for you guys. If you guys have the exact same rating system I do, or you guys have something that's a little bit different and you guys want to talk about it, please let me know down in the comments. But I will see you guys next time. Bye.